my son has like really like thick curly hair, and I've had a few people tell me keep it that way so it hides his implant, so people don't see it. Like I'm embarrassed or that's the crazy thing is like I was told that, and it's just like, comments. But why?
Yeah,
why? Or like, oh, it's a good thing it's black. I'm like, I could have got white, I could have got pink, I could have got purple. We chose black just because it matches everything. I'm talking about like aesthetics now.
Why are they worried about?
But that's
your
kids.
They're well-meaning, but they don't realize.
They're not trying to be malicious, but they're just.
And that's the thing I'm telling you.
That's it. It's not necessarily to be malicious, but it's giving trying to normalize their life, but it's just like define normal.
Yeah.
What is normal?
Their life is their normal,
right?
But I told you that this story, but yeah, like just sometimes I was sitting. He was probably 2 or 3. We hang out with our family. He's like with everybody else. Like we're just doing our thing.
Yeah.
And somebody comes up to me, very well-meaning, like, like I love how you just treat him like everyone else. And then I was like, do I punch her? Do I just say nothing? Like. And I had to take him in, I'll be like, but I told her, how else would I treat him? And, no, like, I just mean, and then she got nervous and I was like, no, it's okay. I know what you meant. But to me, he's just, look, everybody else, he's just like everybody else. Why would I treat him any differently? He might need my help more, but I won't treat him differently. She was like, oh, okay, but so well-meaning, but what do you mean?
That's a great reminder, though, because there's no reason for us as parents to treat them differently. Like I said, they need accommodations. They're not a bar set low. I still punish Marcelo if he does something wrong. I don't give everything to him when he's crying for it because he's still a little 2-year-old boy that deserves, to be disciplined.
Oh yeah, they get it.
They get it. They know how to push buttons. Absolutely.
Really sassy.
Oh yeah. But that's a big thing. Is like. Honestly, that isn't a misconception that just because they have a disability, they should be treated differently. Absolutely not the case.
Another big misconception, last one I'll give, is that when you do disclose what's going on with your child, the diagnosis, is you get that sympathy. And I just right away, the minute somebody says that, I'm like, oh no, she's fine. She's 100. We're great. Don't worry.
And that's my response because I automatically get,
she's great. We don't need that. Like, I don't want pity.
Don't give us pity.
They don't need
pity.
And I think a good response.
Yes.
I think a good response would be like, oh, I didn't know that. Or if you don't know anything about, let's say, autism or any of the other disabilities, tell me more about it.
I get told I'm sorry.
That's a good response. Because some people may not know how to respond, right?
Just coming from someone who is not in your situation, you want to be empathetic, but maybe it does come off. And I know you guys know.
We can tell.
You can tell,
a genuine response or like, oh, poor you.
For sure. But what would you guys want if somebody is asking you and your response is, well, they're autistic or they have Angelman syndrome? What would you want their response to be? You just said
a lot of the time I've had people that will say, oh, haram, or oh, that that's so sad, or oh, habibti. But I have had also people that be like, oh, I didn't know that about her. And that's enough.
Okay.
That's enough. You don't need to say more than that. Or if you're interested in learning, I don't know anything about that. Do you want to talk about it or, anything like that? Do you need any support? If we're not close enough for you to offer support, like if we're not close enough, you probably don't know. You probably,
like a random at Safeway.
Right. Yeah. Actually, funny enough, quick story.
Oh, no, not a random at Safeway.
Honestly, funny enough, we were doing therapy with Bayan, and she wouldn't go into grocery stores. She would run. So you take her into, I couldn't go get a jug of milk if I had her with me because she would bolt, or she would scream, or she would do whatever. And so part of her therapy was trying to teach her how to sit in a grocery cart. And I wish I had a picture to show you because her therapist made a picture of a kid shopping in a grocery store and then cut a picture of Bayan's head and put it on top. And it was just the funniest picture. But anyways, we were there and Bayan was having her meltdown. And it was part of her teaching her how to be in a grocery store. So she sat and she had this meltdown and she's screaming in the middle of Walmart. And I'm just like, we're staring at her and we had her board her. She had it's like AAC, but it wasn't digital. It was low tech. So she had her board and we're trying to explain to her no, whatever. And the first lady comes up and she was a lady from the community, hijabi auntie. And she was like, I don't know her. And she was like, Assalamu alaikum. I was like, lady, I don't have time for you right now. Like, she's screaming. And she was like, بس بدي أقول لك شو مال البنت. I'm like, and I said it very firmly. I'm like,
what is wrong with this girl?
I just said, I don't have time for you right now. Like, just, And then 2 seconds later, another woman came, and she was not from the community. And I think when people see hijabi women with kids that are misbehaving, they feel like, I need to teach you because you are new to my country. And this is not how we act in this country. And so she came up and she crouched down to Bayan. I've never seen this lady before in my life. And she pointed her finger in her face. And she said, that is not how you act, whatever. And she went off. And I just looked at her and in front of the therapist, and I don't think the therapist had ever seen me go into mama bear mode. And I looked at her and I said, you get your finger out of my daughter's face before I break it off and hand it to you.
Oh, yes.
And she was like, she just looked at me and I was like,
English?
and yeah, and I think that was her response.
100%.
But I was like, you obviously see that there's something different going on here. So another thing is also like, if you see, kids with disabilities and they need those accommodations, or, kids freaking out in a grocery store, have just that little bit of, you want to have empathy, have that little bit of empathy, and maybe assume that that's probably not what the mom wants.
Yeah.
Somebody saying, do you need anything is great. Yeah, no, I'm good, thank you, whatever. But
Or I feel ya.
yeah,
Been
yeah,
there.
yeah, how, like whatever. That's totally okay, but don't try and overstep that.
Yeah. Don't look down on anybody going through that.
And that's
in a public space.
my typical neurotypical kid that wanted to freak out in the grocery store.
Yeah.
So I used to get very defensive. Like, and Mo used to have Joanna, because obviously, like, you take her to the park. She's in a stroller, so she doesn't physically look like there's anything wrong with her. But why is this 2-year-old in a wheel, like, in a stroller?
Yeah.
Or like, that time around 3 years, we had oxygen on her because of her pneumonia and her hospital stay. So they look at her and they're like, and I'm like, oh, you have a question? Yeah. And they're like, what's wrong with her? And I'm just like, okay, nothing's wrong with her. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
But then and I was like, you have to like they're kids, Joanna.
Oh, this was a kid.
This is a kid. This is a kid.
Because like, no, what's wrong with what's wrong with her? And I'm just like, okay, and then I like, but like at that time, I'm hearing it all the time from other kids, and I'm just like, this poor kid is just like, oh, okay, like I got her on a bad day, right? But and then I was like, so then I would have to, like, in Drayton Valley, she was the only one of her kind that special in a wheelchair. And go back to like the school, they treated her like gold. Like, if I could go back just for school there, I'd go there because they were amazing. All the kids used to fight over her, but like there's a lot of the community didn't know her. So like even in the grocery store, you get the stares, or she'd have a seizure, so we pull her over to the side. She'd have her cluster of spasms, she'd start crying, and then like I remember seeing like an older couple, and they're like, and then they went around the corner, and then they come back around, and we're in the baby section, and I'm just like, you ain't here for nothing, like, move along. I'm looking back, and and Mo's like, what's wrong? And I'm just like why? Like, why are they, like, we're literally in the corner, the stroller facing the wall, and she's having a coughing fit because of like the spasms, like, like they just bring up stuff in her chest, so she's having a coughing fit, and she's still a baby at this time, but they can see like she's, something's, and they're just like staring, and I'm just like, is there something you want to ask? So that I say it like nicely, like, yeah, do you have a question?
Yeah.
Oh no, she's beautiful, or and then like, oh well, just the other day, Friday, some guy walking to the doctor's office, he's like, may I ask what's wrong with her? Like, really? what her disability is? And I was just like, yeah, you can ask. That's a very good question. Yeah, she has seizures, and she hasn't developed like normal kids do, right? Because of her spasms. You know what? God bless you, and parents that look after their kids like this. And he's like, you know what? Look at you. You're smiling. I was like, well, she's a blessing. Literally Friday, she's a blessing. And he's like, yeah, you know what? They really are. And I'm like, yeah, and that's it.
And it's like, my girls had to go through that too. So my 2 older girls, they're older than him. They were like prepped. He's coming to school, and I remember it was
ready to fight.
Probably first recess of kindergarten ever for Kareem, and I go pick up the girls and relax, like, Mama, there was this kid in grade 4, and like he came out with the wheelchair, and he's like, how come he doesn't walk? I want to fight him. Like, she was ready to fight this kid because this kid asked how come he doesn't walk. So I had to
I know.
I had to mow
they
her.
like must, yeah.
No, mama, you have to be like, they just don't understand. They've never seen it. You have to help them explain it. It's okay for them to ask. As long as they're not being mean to him, it's okay. Like, it took a couple of days because he has like the cousin crew and they're ready to fight anybody who looked at him. Like, no,
I love that.
they just want to know what's going on. They want to know if they can help him. And like, now it's like, can we push him in the wagon? Can we push him in the stroller? Like, but
to
our
add
girls feel
to
it too.
that's a good way to bring up the fact that all our children that have disabilities also have siblings that don't, and that changes the dynamics of the house and the home. And that's one thing that I remember very vividly right now of how I felt when I found out Marcelo was deaf. Is it's going to change our family. I mean, I didn't know if it was going to be a good thing, a bad thing, or what, but I have a daughter who's hearing, so what does that mean for her? She can't play with her brother now because he's not going to understand when she tries to play with him and use those words. And I mean, there's a lot of other feelings that come with that, but that's another thing is, and then you put so much time and effort into the child with a disability that you get that mom guilt of, oh my God, I'm neglecting the one that doesn't. And it just like goes full circle. This is a daily feeling, a daily routine of that. And it doesn't necessarily go away, but you just know how to manage your time better with the child that has a disability and the child who doesn't, or the children who don't. And but it's just amazing because when you teach them that your sibling's a little different, they need a little bit of accommodations. You know, Madeline, who's 4 years old, she will say, you know, often, Mom, when I was a baby, I had hearing aids. And I used to just say, yeah, you did, just so that she felt, you know,
because he's special,
because he's special. But now, as she's a little older, we explain to her, no, you didn't, because your ears work. Marcelo's little ears don't work, but when he wears his processors, they work and he can hear us. And he loves when he hears us, because if it falls off, he comes running to us and he points and he's trying to put it on, but there's a magnet. So he has a magnet that's was surgically placed with the implant, so it just kind of like locks in place. And she tries to help him when it falls. And you know what, we push on verbal speech at home, and she will repeat words and she'll stretch out words and she will. It's amazing that this 4-year-old will, you know, she. You know, he got Thomas the Train will be on TV, and she's like, Marcelo, look, Thomas, choo choo, choo choo, because we use sounds, because before they learn words, they learn sounds. So automatically, she knows that there's that little bit of accommodation. We don't just say Thomas is on TV, it's she points and she's repeating and she's using sounds. It's natural. You know, when it's time for eat, Marcelo, eat, and then she'll point to the chair. So these little things that she feeds off of what she sees me do, my husband do, and that's just our language at home. And it's just amazing. And honestly, you know, going back to when you know, share your child's diagnosis, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And automatically, and for those who've messaged me or said it to me, my response is, why? They're a blessing. Because Marcelo's taught me more than I would have taught Marcelo.
100%.
And, you know, 2 turns into 4 and 4 turns into 8 and so on and so forth. Like, I can't imagine how this journey is going to be for me. I'm excited.
It is.
Because I've learned so much. And honestly, I look at this little boy and I'm like, damn. Like, I mean, he's pretty handsome, but I'm like, damn, this kid. He's amazing. Amazing.
The people you meet. You know, the empathy that it breeds between different people, the kind of deep connections you can make. Honestly, some of the people we've met through Bayan and Khadijah's diagnosis, I probably never would have met without them. You know,
phenomenal people,
and deep understanding of what is happening between both your families. Because you're going through something that nobody else in the vicinity is going through. And you just have that automatic connection.
It makes you a better person.
It really does. Surrounding yourself with a person. You understand. And my kids, like you're saying, they have siblings. I have 2 older kids who are neurotypical. And I tell everybody, and I laugh because I tell everybody, whoever marries my older 2 kids is they're gonna be lucky. Because those kids, they are like, they had to raise themselves, 6 and 8. Like, I was busy with Bayan, and they were just such great kids.
Well, and it goes both ways. I have Dot younger than Kadeem, and then I have the 2 older ones. And same thing, we feel like Dot is extra spoiled. She was the baby, but at the same time, she didn't know, like, things like that. Like, oh, well, how come he gets to have the iPad all the time? Well, Mama, because he can't go out and play with you outside. He's not going to get out and run right now. So let him have the iPad. You go play outside. Which, like with the older girls, they kind of just seen it. They knew. But it's just different explaining it to the younger one. But same thing now. She'll be like, oh, I think AK needs his, like she'll go find his pacifier. She'll go charge his iPad and she'll be like, after dinner, you can have it, Mama said. Like, she's his Mama Bear.
Yeah.
She's 4 and she's like, I got this, Mama. Like, he needs to do this. And she's like his little, he has 4 moms. Like,
But that's it. Marcelo is now very protective of his little sister. So I have a 4-month-old, and like, if he sees that I'm nursing, right away, I don't ask for the blanket. I don't point to the blanket. I don't say I want it. He knows automatically grab the blanket. He gives it to me. If Madeline is playing with one of her toys, one of Melina's toys, automatically gets mad. He'll take it from her. He's like, no, it's for her. And he'll point to the swing, like, put it back in the swing. That's where it belongs.
I love it.
So it's just like,
brother.
he's a good big brother, and he's a
absolutely.
good baby brother to Madeline.
Yeah.
So it is amazing. And honestly, my dynamics, even though, that doubt of what it's going to be like when I found out he was deaf is, look at it. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Like, we got a pretty awesome family. Alhamdulillah.
Absolutely.
My boys too.
I count my blessings every day. I don't see the downfall in anything that I'm dealing with.
I know I've said this about maybe like a million times, but you guys are so amazing. Like, honestly, like, just hearing you guys. Cheers, all of you guys.
So, come on.
Yeah, like, but I'm not gonna cheers.